You call what we're doing here?
I would guess so.
Waiting for people.
Yes,
Yeah.
all of our fans.
Have you had fun this weekend?
I've had such a great time this weekend. What
Yeah.
an awesome first annual meetings for me.
Yeah. Well, it's been a joy having you here.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
tell
you.
people that during the summer, when I'm just announcing shows and getting taped for Field Pass and maybe doing the occasional Jumbotron interview, I literally have the easiest job in Drum Corps International. I do. I show up late, I do my thing, I get out early. It's an easy gig, and I love it. I'm so privileged and blessed to be able to, do this kind of thing.
We love having you, that's for sure, and I know all the fans do too. One of the voices at DCI.
These 4 days though, this is work.
It's quite different.
We have been moving from sun up till midnight every day. How many interviews do you think we've done?
20?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe more.
Maybe 2 dozen?
Yeah.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. Thank you to everybody who was our victim for this, and especially our special guest. Having Michael Gaines here was very special.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right.
I think we're up. Just trying to confirm. I know we're up on YouTube. I'm just confirming on Facebook.
Oh, and I forgot Tom Blair, and I don't want Tom to be watching. And oh, what about me? He was here the first night.
Of course.
And was great as well.
He was. Always good to see him.
We're live.
We're live on both,
We're
right?
live.
YouTubes and Facebooks?
Yep.
Okay. Shall we make it official?
We shall.
We got a lot to get to.
We do.
Good evening and welcome to Indianapolis and the DCI News Network Wrap-Up Show. I'm Dan Potter.
And I'm Tina Pliagis. We have had a packed final day at the annual meetings, and the DCI News Network has been bringing you all of the news as it broke.
One major development came in the middle of the afternoon today as the Corps' instructors voted to endorse a plan that would move the percussion, brass, and visual proficiency, knew I was going to have trouble saying that, the drum, brass, and visual proficiency judges off the field. Now, they would stay at field level. The field judges would be permitted to go up to 2 yards into the front of the field to sample performances. The intent is to keep those judges out of the middle of those whiplash drills the Corps are doing. So not in the middle of the form anymore.
Exactly. And after the instructors approved the proposal, it was sent to the voting membership of DCI. And we can now report that the Corps directors have just voted to approve that plan. That means that beginning with the 2019 season, the field judges will now work from the front sideline.
It's a notable change. And as we heard the Blue Knights' Kevin Shaw say in our earlier interview with him, this is all about keeping the performers and the judges as safe as possible while still allowing the judges to do their job. Now, if you want to know more about this and the logic behind it and what's involved, you're going to find that interview with Kevin right here on YouTube, on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page.
Yep. So how do you feel about the removal of judges from the middle of the field? Let us know and comment below what you think.
A short time ago, the directors voted to approve a competitive policy for prop safety. This policy comprises several precautionary measures for performers on elevated platforms.
And another big collaboration was just announced this morning. DCI is working with Drums Alive and West Music to promote fitness and health through percussion workouts. Drums Alive has studied the positive physical and mental benefits of drumming and has designed a certified percussion-centered workout program for all ages and abilities. Their demonstration this morning that they held for all of the attendees was really an energizing way to start the joint sessions.
Energizing is a pretty good word for it. Plans for this partnership with Drums Alive and West Music include the possibility of using DCI drum lines on the soundtracks of the Drums Alive workouts and incorporating elements of the Drums Alive workouts into the Corps' fitness programs. It's all still in the planning stages, and if you want to get an idea of what Drums Alive is all about, check out the story that we posted earlier today, a story that includes video of DCI Hall of Fame percussionist Scott Johnson playing on one of Drums Alive's bouncy balls. Scott Johnson, Scojo, playing riffs on a bouncy ball, not something you're going to see every day.
Not at all. And something else you're not likely to see every day is a meteorologist pouring a glass of water on the head of a drum corps staff member. But it did happen today
did.
at the DCI family lunch when Dr. Kevin Claisel, meteorologist for the University of Oklahoma,
Boomer!
spoke to the participants about weather safety. Dr. Claisel, who is kind of a weatherman's weatherman, is DCI's primary forecaster, and he was trying to make a point that Corps have to be proactive when it comes to weather and safety, and they need to plan ahead for any weather emergency so that way they won't have to make critical decisions at the last minute.
Yeah, when you're in the middle of the rehearsal and the storm is bearing down on you, that's not the time you want to be making those choices about what to do. You have to have a plan. So if this happens, we're going to do this. You can find out more about how DCI is actually held up as a role model for other groups who plan large-scale outdoor events. DCI is pointed to do it like they do it. Find out about that and more. We had a great interview with the amazing Dr. K, and you can find that right now here on these same social media channels. Speaking of amazing, our guest tonight for this final wrap-up show is that and much more. Lindsay Vento's path to designing for a world-class DCI Corps is unconventional, and I think it's inspiring too. Lindsay's beginning her second season as artistic director of the Academy out of Phoenix, Arizona, and was, I should say Tempe, Arizona, to be technically correct. And she was the chief architect of the Corps' 2018 production, Academic. Lindsay Vento,
hi.
Welcome to the wrap-up show.
Thank you.
God, see, here's why we need Lindsay here tonight. At some point past 5 p.m., caffeine no longer works on me, so I need me a shot of Lindsay Vento to wake up and make it through the rest of the night.
You guys are awesome. These interviews and these videos have been great.
Oh,
this is great. I'm sure the watching body appreciate the feedback.
I think the best place to start is that unconventional path that you've taken to get to that chair here tonight. You got no band background, no drum corps background. You were a vocal theater student, right?
Yes, I was. The only caveat to that you said is the band background I had is because I was a music major and an opera major in college, is that I was on the dance team in college.
Okay.
Our senior year, I mean, the dance team is part of the marching band, right? So I had a little bit, that's not experience.
But you had been on the field
I had
performing.
been on the green space, and I had to know what a yard line was. Yes, I had gotten that far. My senior year, they needed an extra drum major for 1812 Overture on the field, and they said, well, you're a music major. Why don't you just be the drum major for this? So I went from dance team to drum major to now it somehow got me here. But yes, my path has been quite unconventional. I didn't march drum corps. I didn't march in high school. I started doing this activity because my husband at the time needed someone to fill in for someone not returning from maternity leave. And I thought
he was teaching a band in the Kansas City area.
Yes.
Just to kind of fill in the blanks here.
Correct.
And his guard instructor went AWOL, had a baby.
Yes.
And he turned to you, and you were doing what at the time?
Well, I was a dance coach.
You were a dance coach.
Yes.
So
and I was
working with the Palm Squad at the school.
I was, and I was the choral director, at the middle school, and was singing with the lyric opera, and so he says, well, she didn't come back, and I said, oh man, I'm sure I can help you find somebody, and he said, wait, well, you have a dance background and a music background, you know how to read music, can you help? And I thought, you can't be serious. And he said, it just all needs to look like this, and I said, okay. And so from there, I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, why just be good at it?
I mean, okay.
And so I started asking questions, and I said, well, what's the next step? And so I just started taking steps. And I think the dance background, the music degree, the musical theater background, you put those together, that's the pageantry arts, that's the marching arts. All of that put together, right?
Right, but you're missing one element here.
Oh,
we dealt with this in the podcast, okay? What's she leaving out? What do color guards do besides dance? They use equipment.
They use equipment.
And you didn't have any experience throwing a rifle or...
I did not. I had to go to camps and learn it. So it's a whole bunch of 14-year-olds and me.
You were the oldest color guard camp participant?
What is that, professional student? They call that in college. I was the professional student at camp, and I had to learn it. I thought if I'm going to be responsible to teach this, then I need to know what it is. To me, I'm a science and math person, and so weapons and spinning and all of that, and the choreographic nature of it is science. It's the subdivision. It's the science of and the counting of the rotations. And I thought, oh, well, I got that right. So I went to camp and I learned it, and then from there I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, let's just be good at it. I try, and now it got me here, and it's a crazy road. It was a crazy road, and I couldn't have asked for anything different.
We left a lot of gray area there between that and here we are tonight. We'll cover that territory.
Sure. So with this varied background that you have, obviously a lot of different experiences, where do you find the inspiration and ideas for your designs then?
Man, how do you narrow that down? I honestly, I think I'll start this way. I'm an aesthetic person. That is what I gravitate towards. So people will design their shows with music first, or they'll design their shows visually first, or they'll have a show title. I'm an aesthetic person. What do I want the landscape to look like? What do I want the props and the costuming, and what's the vibe that I want to get from the aesthetic nature of all of the visual stuff that we're going to do to the field? That's what drives me. And what's interesting is there's no one way, right? You could have 10 other people in this chair and they could say, oh, well, I designed a program XYZ. And I think that's what's beautiful about our art form, is that everybody comes about it at such a different way, which is why finals night's so exciting, right? Is that everybody's come at it from all these different ways. I come at it from the aesthetics a lot of time. I feel what's the vibe and what's the energy and what's the aesthetic that I want to create, and from there it will reveal itself. The music sources that I select and the staging ideas and what I want things, the moments in the show that I want to really matter, they will reveal themselves through that for me.
We asked Michael Gaines the other night, whose moves, whose designs other than your own, are impactful to you. Basically a way of asking him, who influences you? Who do you dig? Who are you watching? Who do you like?
In this activity?
Yeah, designers.
I'm a John Vanderkoff fangirl,
Glucose,
man.
Yeah.
I am. I'm a fangirl. There's something about it, and it's different because obviously Scott Chandler would be on the other side of that for me. Those two, but I feel they're so different. John, to me, it's such an accessible, that word accessible is tricky. You say accessible and it means, oh, I must get it.
Right.
Or it's easy on the palate. That's not what accessible really, really means by definition, not at least what we do. So his aesthetic and his art form and what he does and what he creates has always resonated with me. So that is something that I look to and I think, oh, that's it. Gosh, that's it. I wish I could have come up with that, which clearly I can't. But to me, that is what resonates with me. And then there's Scott Chandler, who comes up with this cerebral brilliance that only I'm imagining as I'm watching it all. He knows what all of that is. And in it is just this, the pathway, I would love to be a fly on the wall of what the pathway he took to get to that.
Right.
That art that ends up on finals night, because it's just brilliant, but it's in this cerebral way that you just are jaw-dropping. So those are the two. I mean, aesthetically, John and the staging that he does with that resonates with me, and it always really has.
Can we talk a little bit about what you do mean by accessible?
What do I mean by accessible? This is my don't quote me, because I don't these comments below. That's not what that means.
Somebody's going to quote it.
Right. That's not what that means. Accessible is, to me, is relatable. Again, that I didn't say I get what you're doing. It's relatable. I had the desire to want to watch that again. Oh, I love that show. That resonates with me. Resonating. That's another word for me. Okay. Because you can be, in my opinion, again, these are all opinion based, sometimes the greatest and the best and the most excellent and the most difficult and the most intricate designs and achievement by a core aren't always the most fun and the most accessible shows. And the most accessible shows and the ones you tap your foot to and the ones you're like jamming and you're like, yeah, that's it. I'm totally resonating with that. Whether it's toe tapping or not, I resonate with that. That doesn't make it the most achieved and the most excellent and the most difficult. You know, so it's that
Well, you told-
difference.
it-
So
that-
accessible is the one that it's different for everybody. It's what resonates with you. To me, that's accessibility. I
In June,
resonate
you told
with
me
that.
you always want to be the audience.
I do, and that's what I'm saying. When the audience, it resonates. They want to watch the show that does something to them. The audience doesn't know the effect sheet. Maybe they do, but they really don't. By nature, it's the ooh and ah, right? It resonated with me. It affected me. It did something to me. That's a really deep caption that the audience isn't always going to understand. So from an audience perspective, accessibility is, on that surface, it resonated with the audience. Does it always resonate deeply on the effect sheet? I don't know, but that's not really, from
That's not the
accessibility.
game you're playing, really.
It's not the game I'm playing. I think there's a balance where you want to be the crowd favorite and you want to be that one, but I don't think that negates you from being one of the best either. I think you can do both. I think, from my past this fall experience, I think you can do both. I do. I think you can be the crowd favorite. I think you can be the accessible one. And I think you can do it in a way that's going to garnish value and garnish credit. It's hard. It's not easy, but there's a way. So,
Of course. Well, so you talk about these aesthetics and being relatable to the audience, being that crowd favorite. How are things shaping up then for Academy this year with that process?
amazing. I'm geeking out excited. Can I say that? Is that even a
Well,
word?
yeah, you can say
I'm
that as long as you
geeking
tell
out
us a lot
excited.
about
Yeah,
the
tell us
show
about
and
it.
give us all sorts of secrets.
I'm
and-
geeking out excited. Last year with the Academy being my first season, really important, and we talked about this, it was really important that I didn't abandon the brand. I didn't abandon who they were. You've got to make sure the fan base is still there. Oh, who's this new girl coming in? Right, the shot heard around the world. It's a female artistic director. Oh my gosh, what is she going to do?
Right.
So it's really important that you stick to the brand and you stay true to that. And we did that, and I felt that we did that well for them. And no matter what the placement was, I still feel they marched and played better than they ever had. That bottom tier was just so good. That bottom tier was just so good. So this season, with the support of Mark Richardson, with the support of the board of the Academy, I said, hey, it's year 2. How about you just let me do my thing? How about we stay true to the Academy? The crowd's still going to know it's the Academy. How about I put my tools in my tool belt and try it on, and let me do what I do, and we'll see if it fits. I totally think it's fitting.
Cool.
I think it's great. I think the membership is totally stoked. It's a departure, but not in a way that's this big aleatoric. Oh my gosh, who is that? It is the Academy 2.0. That's what I'm kind of calling it. It's the
Okay.
Academy
Cool.
2.0. It is. I'm very excited.
Well, I was going to follow up because you did tell me that in the interview that this will be the best Academy ever.
And they were.
And they were, in your mind, they were.
Because in that interview, I didn't say we're going to place the highest we're ever going to place.
Right.
We're not going to score more points than we ever scored. It's
Academy
the best.
finishing 15th after
They-
semifinals.
after
last year.
semifinals, that was the best that core had ever played in March.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that is the most professional and excellent and most well-achieved Academy that has ever been. And so that tier last season was a beast. All of those cores were just fantastic. I mean, it was almost as exciting as watching who's going to be 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Watching that 10, 11, 12, 13. I mean, it was all
That top 12
very
bubble.
exciting. Oh my
Very,
goodness.
very
Yeah,
exciting.
absolutely.
Sure.
Let's go back now to your path a little bit,
Yes.
because you rose to prominence in Bands of America with Blue Springs High School.
Yes.
Some phenomenal, very creative shows with Blue Springs. And you have added other Union High School you worked with as well. So you kind of got your chops in BOA.
Yes.
And now doing DCI, I wonder if you could compare the two experiences. How are they different?
Oof, vastly different. I will be honest with you that I'm still figuring out the differences. I feel it is quite different. Simple things. Let's start ground zero. There's a color guard caption. There's a percussion caption. Those don't exist in Bands of America. That's just your music caption. That's in your music effect caption and your music ensemble caption. That's not, and in your individual music, obviously, the percussion fits into that. But there are separate captions that are really skill-based, the way the sheets are right now, currently, and we're looking at vamping those and adjusting those, but those sheets right now are very skill based, and so that's a huge difference in itself. Of instead of in Bands of America, where effect is so big, it is so huge, and how do you use the color guard and how do you use the winds in the most effective way possible? That is obviously, effect is the name of the game, and it always will be. But there is still the sheets lend itself in a way that it's still so skill based. It is still an analysis base. It is a brass caption base. It is an execution based activity, and not that Bands of America isn't, because it is. Achievement is huge, and it should be with the high school Super Bowl, right? It should be. We should be teaching our students that achievement and excellence is #1 in priority. But the level of which execution and achievement is in DCI, it is a whole other level, and it's keeping up with the Joneses while being the most excellent and while having the difficulty. The difficulty in Bands of America and the difficulty in DCI, obviously different. It's a different level, but you never want to sacrifice the effect and the achievement. I'm sorry, the excellence and achievement in Bands of America due to difficulty. You do push that envelope in DCI. You do.
Yeah, you do.
You do. How far can I push, and how good can I be at that push? And it's a lot different in Bands of America. That's not necessarily the mentality. Not that it's wrong. And that's the craziest part, is that, and being an adjudicator with Bands of America, it is so different, but both are so correct in their own way. No, one is not right, one is not wrong, one is not better than the other. They're just really, they're correct in their own way for the market and the members and what they're trying to do. They're both correct in their own way.
So having seen it then from both of these different levels, BOA, DCI, what do you love most about the marching arts?
Oh, man. Oh, that's hard. It's so many things. I love kids. Is that weird? I love teaching. I love that. I love that my job, my career is I get to go work in an activity with kids, young adults that have the drive they chose this. They could have chosen a million other activities. They could have chosen football to be their thing. They could have chosen just concert band to be their thing. They could have chosen all of these things. They chose this. They chose us, and we're working. It's the toy box it's the sandbox of all the kids that want to do what you're asking them to do. It's my favorite part. The creativity that I feel that we're allowed to be in DCI is exciting. Bands of America is there's a creative side to that, but there's the checklists and the things are so different. In DCI, it's an open box. It's you color that sky any way you want to color it, and that's exciting to me. Learning the creative, the lack of creative boundaries that you have, that's fun for me. I don't come from a background of this. So in my brain, there's really no boundaries. I come at it from such a different perspective. I can't refer back to 1996 when I marched and, oh yeah, I remember we did that. I probably shouldn't do that because that didn't work. I don't have that. So it's really just an open palette of...
Yeah, you've got no preconceived notions.
I have no preconceived notions, and that's really just an open book for me to really explore. And I work with some really brilliant and great people who allow me to explore. Yeah. And that's awesome.
Wow. Okay, where do we go next? We glossed over something earlier. And you did. You just mentioned it just passing. Yeah, I was a New York opera singer.
No, it was in New York. The Lyric Opera of Kansas City. Yes.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
Kansas City, New York.
Well,
close.
But still.
Yes.
This woman can sing.
Aw, Dan, you're sweet. Thank you. Thank you. It's I miss it.
Yeah.
I do. I miss it, but I get so much out of this. It's so crazy how your life moves where it's supposed to move. I'm exactly where I should be. I'm exactly where were my plans to be in New York, and were my plans to go to Cincinnati Conservatory for my master's with the offer I got? Absolutely, no question. But I feel this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. The creativity that I'm able to do. I still sing in my kitchen. I sing to my kids. I sing in the car. But yeah, that life, that was a really great pathway that led me to here. All the training I got from that led me to here, and I wouldn't change it, not for 1 second. As cliche as that sounds, I wouldn't.
A little bit more about your family. Steve
Sure.
Vento
Yes.
is your husband, Steve,
Yes.
longtime DCI brass instructor. 3 kids?
3, yes,
Three,
yeah.
What ages?
17, 11, and almost 10.
Oh.
Wow.
They went there, man. They grew. They got older, and so I've got we've got one more year left with our oldest, and then he's off to college, which is just mind blowing to me. So yeah, that's where that is. And Steve is the new brass arranger at the Academy.
You had a good weekend here?
Oh goodness, yes. This has been great. It's the professionalism and the camaraderie. There's been some really tough topics. I mean, you all mentioned it about the field judges. I mean, that's what, since 19
Yeah.
I mean, go back decades and decades. That's been a field judge, been the
Forever.
thing.
Yeah.
We changed that this weekend, and I don't think people realize how big that is right now, because I think we're exhausted. I think we're just mentally, because we put so much time and energy in these caucuses for the betterment of the whole membership.
History happens at these things.
History seriously happens, and the big history happened today, and I think that the best part about it is this 100% the right answer? Probably not. I don't know, but how exciting and how proud am I to be a part of a membership that they chose the safest route.
Yeah.
They didn't choose the most competitive route.
Right.
They didn't choose the most artistic route. They didn't choose the route that was going to look the best on video. They chose what is safest for the membership, what is safest for the adjudication system. That's what we chose. How amazing is that? Of all the press that DCI has gotten, are you kidding me? We just spent a weekend voting on safety as number 1.
Yeah. Even both of the things that happened in terms of policy, procedure
Oh,
changes,
yes.
even those were focused
Oh,
on
huge!
safety.
It was safety, and it's really inspiring. Are we competitive? Yes. Are we creative and artistic? Absolutely. But the fact that we voted, number 1 concern was, is this the safest route? Yes. Then there's no question.
We got to go, but
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
You're very
it.
welcome. Thank you.
Lindsay Vento, Artistic Director of the Academy.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Dan Potter. Tina, this has been an amazing, amazing weekend. Again, we were kind of talking before we went on the air that feel very privileged and blessed to have been able to be part of the start. Talk about history. The DCI News